when I lived in New York for college, it was a
Mm-hmm.
pretty miserable time.
Mm.
I was a very confused, insecure, uncertain individual, as a lot of college students are.
I was about to say
Uh,
that.
yeah, I think I was also just a square peg in a round hole. Like I thought, I mean, again, like a lot of college students are, they think they're going to college and it's going to solve a lot of their problems. And I thought going to a film school and living this life in New York would
Mm-hmm.
solve a lot of my problems, and they only exasperated them. And in a way, it became one of my greatest gifts because I realized that I really don't want to live in a city, and like what I truly want to do with my life by seeing what's not going to work for me.
That's good.
Yeah. Like living in New York, I mean, going to college in New York is, you don't get the college experience. You're living in New York City and you're like taking classes.
Yeah, so you get more of the New York experience than you get like a college experience.
Yeah, which for some people, like, that's cool. I think I would have enjoyed the college experience a little bit more,
Mm.
especially like New York City. I always just felt I was living inside of a big dome. Mm,
I
like
could, yeah,
like from the Simpsons movie.
yeah.
I did There are some experiences
Mm-hmm.
in New York that could have only happened in New York, and which I actually, now that I've gotten some distance for it, I do get a little wispy eyed and a little wistful for moments like these. And
Right,
I used to just straight up hate New York. And now I think of moments like this and I actually get nostalgic for it.
right.
Mostly for delivery Chinese food, but also
You
New
love you
York.
some good takeout, boy. Don't
Oh,
you?
so good. NYU has no campus.
No.
The East Village is the campus,
Yeah.
and the quad is Washington Square Park.
Yep.
Me and I had a buddy Jacob, who, bless his heart, I think he lives out in Ithaca now. He was an actor, really, really good dude. Miss him. Should hit him up sometime. He would actually really enjoy this podcast. Not a wrestling fan. Actually, no, we did watch wrestling a few times, and he was a theater guy, and he totally bought into it.
It is theater. It's a mix. It is theater. Like that is what wrestling is. You know.
We watched WrestleMania together and got fired up at Ronda Rousey's tag team match. It
That's a
was
good
that one.
match.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Now, the end part of that WrestleMania is a little shit, but you know, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. You know, but you know,
And
we'll get we'll get past that.
we wander into Washington Square Park one night to,
Yeah,
what every college student is doing in Washington Square Park under the cover of darkness. We're going to smoke pot.
of course.
And we run into three very cute girls.
Hmm.
One of them's got little space bun hair.
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of them's like 4'10", like kind of a squeaky voice, but like huge smile.
Mm.
One of them is unlike any other girl I've really seen before, and it turns out that's because she's Native Alaskan.
Okay.
Yeah. And they all three friends, not from New York, but they all met up in New York to hang out.
Hmm.
College age like us.
Okay.
Start smoking weed together, go on a grand adventure together.
Hmm.
One of them goes and gets their nipples pierced. We at the same place we buy a bowl. What?
So wait, you just time the fuck out. This is why this is only a New York fucking thing. You just meet these girls and you're already accompanying them while one gets their nipple pierced.
And at the same place we buy a bowl.
Bowl. Yeah, that's so New York. Let me guess, this is somewhere right there in the village, ain't it?
It's like 4 blocks away.
I knew it. I knew. Probably close to the one train, isn't it? But
Washington Square Park is funny because on like you have the arch,
hmm.
and on the, I guess it would be the north side,
Yeah.
No. It would be on the west side of it is where you come in from the NYU side, and on the west side of the arch, it's like the Lion King, where it's like everything the light touches is yours. And it's like, but what about the darkness? And it's like, don't go over there. That's like the east side of Washington Square Park.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it's just where things get sketchy and there's dark corners and there's uncomfortable people. And if you
Not
keep going past that, start running into almost like the part of New York, of Manhattan at least, that Giuliani forgot about.
It's not that he forgot about it. He just kind of wanted it to burn. It's more he just wanted it to go to hell.
There's like 10 blocks in between Washington Square Park and the East River that were untouched by I mean, it still got gentrified, but all the hallmarks of New York, the 99-cent pizzas, the piercing places that are also head shops, weird underground clubs, they all exist right in there. And it's really the only place left in Manhattan that you can find it.
Yeah, that definitely. Especially at what time in college was this? What year was this for you?
This must have been 2016.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the few times. Right now, I don't know if it's still like that. I'll tell you that much.
You got taken too.
Everything's damn near taken at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, if you go downtown Brooklyn by the Barclays, trust me, it looks like Lower Manhattan at this point.
Oh, but that place was like that even when I was in college.
Yeah, but it looks more like it. Like since the pandemic, like it looks more like there's more sky rises.
Oh fuck, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
Shout out Jay-Z.
Guess I was born down there, lived down there. You think it makes you sad? I look like a Native American with just a single tear that runs down.
Oh. This land used to be ours.
So you go with them to get the nipple piercing.
Go with them, one of them gets a nipples pierced. You buy this cool bowl that's like a skull hand. Or not a skull hand, that doesn't make sense. Like a skeleton hand.
Okay.
What are you wrinkling over there?
I just found something that was on my bed. I had to move it.
Skeleton hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we have to go smoke out of it and name it, because that's what you're concerned about when you're 19 years old. Is naming your piece. Yeah. So silly.
Probably call it Jack Skellington or some shit like that.
Jack I think it was one of the girls who actually bought it. And I end up talking to the shorter one.
That surprises me.
Yeah, well,
the Native Alaskan one was the one I thought that you would probably take aim for.
If I think if I was older, I would have. But back then, I had just gotten handsome. It was still a very new concept for me.
Understood.
I was very ugly in high school. I spoke like exclusively in Facebook statuses and movie quotes. And then I got to college and like girls wanted to make out with me and I'm like, "Oh fuck, am I hot now? Like is this what it's like?"
You live in that bubble for so long where it's just like no one's interested in you, that when you find out people are interested in you, it's like a shell shock. It's like, whoa, what?
I remember so distinctly staring into the mirror. I lived at my aunt and uncle's for most of college, starting my sophomore years. I was a sophomore at this time. And looking into the mirror and being like, wait, I'm handsome now. I did it. I was a little baby faced. I had, I couldn't grow facial hair at the time.
Right.
But I knew that I could I knew it was a new bubble I was living in. Like I could talk to girls and they're gonna want to talk back to me.
It's like I got pretty privilege.
And I gotta, I could at least put up a facade of confidence now. It was backed by nothing. It was all ego, no confidence.
One of those things that is just like it's like a Jenga building. So it just takes one little breeze before that motherfucker tumbled right over. But it's strong right now. It's strong.
And like that fall, I had dated that Rockette understudy, and so
Right.
that had solidified it. Where it's like, oh, I'm really am. What's the face?
When you've never mentioned a Rockhead
I
understudy. You
think I
know
brought
what?
her up once. She's a
That's
burlesque dancer in Paris now. I think I'm gonna visit her this summer.
continue with your story. Continue with your story, because I'm just like, you know what, Jack? Your life is interesting. Your life is just fucking interesting at this point.
um, where
I'm gonna get you a Dos Equis commercial. Mm.
so we're with we're gonna call her Daisy.
Daisy. Okay.
And we're talking, hitting off, and then they go, we have to go find the school bus. I'm like, what school bus? It's fucking 1 a.m. in the Lower East Side. What school bus? And they go, there's a school bus that's driving around and it's playing music. Like our friends in the band, or we met somebody that's in the band. I go, okay.
Mm.
So we start walking around, we start smoking, and me and Daisy start getting deeper into conversation, and we're discussing prom, and then we're discussing the Chance the Rapper, which, as you know, two white people into rap music tend to do at the time.
What you said 2016, I'm like, all right, that's either coloring book time or that's a little bit off of acid rap. And I want to say
It wasn't. It was right before Coloring Book. It was either
okay,
it was right before Coloring Book.
yeah, probably right at. So it's just like him after the Kanye being on Kanye's album and all that other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I to this day I can put on acid rap and immediately be like transported back to like senior year of high school, like
Yeah.
just and feel, even if for a brief moment, like the weightlessness of being a kid.
Yeah, it takes me back to because acid rap came out as I graduated college, so it takes me right back to them.
We're talking about prom night, the song now. There are two conversations merged, and she's like, we played this like 8 times at our after prom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I think I got too drunk at after prom and like puked into the bushes. She goes, that's okay. Like we all like have our moments, and there's been parties I had to be carried out of. And it's part of the grand adventure of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're kind of just poking fun at ourselves and finding some I don't know,
Similarities.
comfort,
Mm.
similarities and comfort in each other's deprecation.
Right.
And we can't get the bowl lit, and she's like, can someone get us a lighter? These two nerds can't figure it out. We finally find I think the bus more accurately finds us.
Okay.
And it's lit up. The inside is lit up, neon green, neon red, neon blue lights. There's a band in the back. It's blasting music, and they're just driving around the fucking Lower East Side, and we're picking people up. We're waving out the window like a bunch of fucking idiots. It's 2 a.m.
But it's like a Friday in New York, so
Yeah,
everything's still active. Everything
right.
is
Like
still
it's
active.
still the weekend,
Yeah.
and and it's also, there is a certain level of debauchery that's accepted in New York, and it'll come up later on about how this all works out. But it's, there's a deal between the degenerates and the NYPD
Of course.
that's like, all right, we're gonna be within your rules as long as you keep your rules uh loose.
We'll follow your rules, policeman, officer man, but just make
Yeah,
sure you allow us to fuck shit up.
yeah. And we're dancing on the bus, twirling Daisy around. They're playing like kind of rhythm and blues, brass band
Right.
type stuff. Fucking loud. And people are running on the bus and they'll run off, and we're still hanging out there. And it is a moment where I sat down and amidst an absolute fucking typhoon of terrible times in New
Mm-hmm.
York, I was able to acknowledge this is why people fall in love with New York.
Yeah.
Is for moments like these that can only happen in this city, and for falling in love with a girl who just got her nipple pierced and dragged me onto this magical school bus.
Yeah. 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 That's all I can say. Yeah.
And then the music fades down, and they go, "We can't do another." I'm like, "Oh, come on, one more song. And he says, "No, our deal is we can fuck around and we can drive around and we can blast music, but at 3 a.m. it needs to stop."
Yeah.
That's the deal we've struck with the NYPD.
Yeah, that's usually New York.
So we all take a deep breath. I look around. I'm actually not that far from my dorm.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and Jacob say goodbyes, and there's Daisy sitting on the couch, smiling at me. I go up to her, I say goodbye to her friends first. I hold her hand delicately. And I say, "All right, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for showing me this wonderful time. I really needed it." She goes, "Of course, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice meeting you." And I look her in the eyes, and I can see that sparkle looking back at me. And then I just duck my head, give her a hug, and walk off.
It was right there.
I know.
It was right there.
I did not finish my story.
Oh, God.
I mean, the story is over, but I did not finish the story.
Oh, the story's done, buddy. This has been over close to a decade later. That story's finished. That story is.
Every time I go to New York, I think I'm gonna run into her.
You never know. Like,
I'm
honest,
I'm just gonna see her one more time.
Gonna see you in the village waiting for the bus.
Waiting for the bus. But like, I'm gonna see her, and it's just gonna be a mirage. Like, I'm gonna see her, and I'm gonna see the bus, and then like the bus is gonna stop and pick her up, and then the bus and her are just gonna like fade off into the ether, and it was never really there.
You're just gonna see her just staring at you from the back window of the bus, just like, Jack. Like you had it right there, brother.
I was a very insecure boy. And I thought maybe she was fucking one of the band members.
You had it right there, and what happened was your insecurity happened to hit you with a Samoan spike before you could hit the crossroads.
It don't always work, but here, this is how I rationalize things. Yes, and it wasn't a sure thing. She could have been hooking up. I think she was hooking up with one of the band members,
Right?
But it wasn't a sure thing, and if I had tried and had failed, that memory would be sullied. And sometimes, even for me, the romance, even for me, it's better to have the memory. And usually the romance is found in the potential. So that story, I'm able to leave it with potential of what could have been rather than the reality of what did.
And on that note, folks, because I really can't think of nothing better, welcome to Wrestling with Wromance.
Yo, 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 yo.
You have another fantastic story by the great Jack Simon. At this point, we're just going to call him Jack the Storyteller.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Jack the Storyteller, because you are knocking it out the park with these stories. Oh, man.
I can't wait for a Double or Nothing episode. I think that's my best one.
You've hinted at that story, and I am very much interested on when we get close to that, you telling that story.
Because that story has everything. That story has romance. That story has like near hospitalization. That story has wrestling. It has Vegas.
One of these days, that's like on my bucket list. Oh, also, by the way, I'm the other co-host, But
I'm Jack Simon. We're back to doing the podcast from bed because I aggravated my back this week.
Yes, Jack's back is at this point the age of me, while he is such a young man.
If you could have if you could smell the podcast, you would just smell a lot of icy hot over here.
One
Yeah, but sorry,
day
go
I'm
on.
still have like I do want to go to a show in Vegas, like a wrestling show in Vegas, because I feel like it is the ultimate experience, probably, of like wrestling, possibly turn into the Hangover, and then have some fucking story. But also, I am about to be 34, so my body reacts to certain shit not in the way it used to when I was 20 something.
Yeah.
So, if I drink hard, the next day I'm probably gonna be in the fucking ER. So it's like it's not the same anymore.
I'm worried we missed the window. I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say that, like, I'm worried that the window has closed on AEW, on wrestling in Vegas,
Mm,
because like it had that one like death rattle the year after COVID,
yeah,
where my story takes place, and now like last year's crowd was so shit for Double or Nothing.
I
And
think next
how often
year,
does how often does
because
WWE do Vegas now?
not that often. That's
Right?
why I think though them having the kickoff at Allegiant Stadium wasn't by accident. I think Allegiant
That I agree
Stadium
with.
is going to be one of their Mania weekends in the next few years because they've never done that stadium. So and I think that would be the year that AEW probably doesn't do Double or Nothing in Vegas. So I can see, because they haven't announced what's Mania next year yet. They haven't announced where that is. So, and I think the word is either Minneapolis or it's Vegas. And if I'm them, I'm taking Vegas. taking so, and
I
that's and
thought that was kind of the carrot too,
yeah.
for maybe we come here soon.
And if that's the case, that means you have Vegas, you have WrestleMania weekend in Vegas. Now, listen, I ain't done a Mania weekend in a long time. I was a wee lad. My dreadlocks was very short. When I last went to WrestleMania weekend, you can still see my ears through my dreadlocks. So to think about doing a WrestleMania weekend, Wale Mania, GCW,
Well, that I
or
was gonna say that I'm curious of where the indie shows run.
I'm very interested, and I think that would be kind of dope to find out.
Yes, I could
And
see it. I could see it being very difficult for indie shows,
yes,
because if you're going to Vegas, everybody's gonna stay on the strip, and
mm-hmm.
if you're not on the strip, and like you can't have a show on the strip, there's just nowhere to fucking do it.
No,
I doubt one of the big casinos are going to give you some space. Maybe you can do it at like a circus or like a flamingo. Um, that would be cool. I don't know. I'm sure they have it. Like what's it called? Like an auditorium hall. You're going to have it in. Maybe that could happen. But if you're
yeah,
going there, you don't have a car because you're just, I'm going to stay on the Vegas Strip and walk up and down. Which,
yeah.
by the way, if you've never been to Vegas, terrible fucking idea. It's way longer than you think it is. Vegas Strip is way longer, and you see all the pretty lights, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna walk it. And all of a sudden, you've walked like 20 miles in a day. Take an Uber, treat yourself. It's okay.
I'm very interested if it does happen because I would go to Vegas probably for that because I've never been to Vegas. I've always wanted to go to Vegas, and I'm like, all right, a Mania weekend in Vegas, why not?
I love Vegas. I love Vegas so fucking much. It's You can have so many different types of Vegas too. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to Vegas and just rode roller coasters for 3 days.
See, that would be me. I would be there riding roller coasters, going to fucking indie shows. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even go to. I'd probably go to night two of Mania, but that's it. I'm not even going to go to night one.
If you go to Vegas for a wrestling show, I'll come.
Okay, shit. Yes,
Maybe that'll be the first time we meet up in person.
it would be. Even though we've thrown out if they do Arthur Ashe for Forbidden Door, like it's been
Yeah.
teased that we've said, hey, this should be the show.
What do you make of that?
What, Arthur Ashe being for Forbidden Door?
Yeah.
I thought Arthur Ashe should have been for World's End. I did not like Nassau. I thought Arthur Ashe being for Forbidden Door to me is cool. I like the idea of that because if you're doing New Japan CMLL, I'm probably, as a New Yorker, I don't know where I'm going to see a show like that. Like you get New Japan CMLL, even though
Oh,
yes,
you think they're putting it all together for that show?
I would think so. I think there was a reason why all of that stuff has been teased, and you have certain stuff being like I forgot they put out the like New Japan Cup, but there's certain stuff being teased. Like you have Hechicero won the challenge, Zack Sabre Jr. Like I'm like I think they're doing a big Forbidden Door where it's like all three of those companies, and I'm like if that's the case, absolutely, I do it in New York. Now, what does that do for Grand Slam? I don't know.
They moved it. They moved. I forgot where they moved it, but they did move it, like officially.
So it won't be at Arthur Ashe.
It won't be at Arthur Ashe.
If it's gonna be somewhere, I'll tell you this: if it's more in the city, I'm so for it. I'm cool with going to, I'm cool with going to Arthur Ashe for a pay per view and going somewhere in the city where it's easier for me to travel for a Grand Slam. Because I'm not gonna lie, that trip in September is always a bitch because there's always train construction on the goddamn 7 at that time. It never
I was
misses.
there for that first Grand Slam show.
Me too.
And hey, another instance where we like pass each other like ships in the night.
All in Grand Slam. We were meant to do this, Jack. We was always meant to come across one another.
So the rumor is it'll be held in Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, but they took that back. PW Insider reported it, but they took that back. But that's still like the most rumored location.
Where's Louis Armstrong Stadium?
I have no fucking idea.
I was about to say I don't fucking know. It's because they can't use fucking Barclays and MSG.
Yeah,
which I hate. Which I absolutely hate. I'm just like, let them fucking use it.
Well, I think they can use it. I think that they don't really want to. I think they are cognizant of that's WWE's space and we want to create our own thing.
From what because there was a report, because usually, if you've ever realized, WWE book shows around those times in New York. So AEW can't use those stadiums for a few months after WWE uses them. Like they have a deal with I guess like some of the stadiums like that.
Small. Because I know they got when they tried to do that with MSG.
Yeah.
For the New Japan Ring of Honor show, there was a big lawsuit and hullabaloo about it.
Yeah, so
and they're like, yeah, you definitely can't do that. But now it makes more sense to just book a show nearby and have no compete clause thrown at the venue.
Yeah. So
it's right. It's literally right next to Arthur Ashe Stadium, Louis Armstrong Stadium.
Oh, so I'm going to the same fucking. Oh,
yeah, you're going to the same spot.
Is it the open air one?
I'm not sure. It looks like it is. I wish they would open up the roof for Arthur Ashe next time they have it there. I think that would be really cool.
I mean, if you're doing it in June, you better fucking open it, because if you're doing it in the middle of the fucking summer, let me tell you, that shit is gonna smell disgusting, because there's some fans, you know exactly which fans I'm talking about, Jack.
The neckbeard from Blackcraft Wrestling. That is the open air one. Can confirm.
Okay, cool. So that's.
I think they can close it up, but they usually do not.
Okay, I'm cool with that, because it's a little different. Okay, I'm cool with that. But yeah, the neckbeards, let me tell you, they be in there reeking.
No, I walked right by the whole crowd in Arthur. Oh, for the first Grand Slam, when it was a shit show because the venue didn't hold like hire enough staff, and like they were supposed to be checking vaccine cards. There was like 6 different lines from the subway to the stadium, and I was with my then girlfriend, and I was like, let's just keep walking until they stop us. And people are lined up. And I'm like, what are you lined up for? We're not even near the fucking entrance. So we just kept walking and just kept walking. And eventually we're at the stadium now. And I see a big corral over to my left of all these people. And then I see the entrance. And I'm like, what are they waiting for? And so we just went through the entrance, and then people started booing everybody who was just going through the entrance, including me. And
I
it was
got there hella early, so I was just on the line. I was just waiting for them to like even allow people like to the front of the gate, and I was just there online. But they've really, they've like the last 2 years have been better at Grand Slam because they've been more staff prepared.
yeah. No, they
But
definitely biffed it.
that first year, oh, that's first year sucked. That
Reportedly, they knew they biffed it, and also that was the biggest crowd they've ever had there because it was during a time, and this is what's on my heart today,
mhm,
where AEW could still surprise you, and it was still tantalizing when they had new wrestlers, and when new wrestlers came in, the possibilities were still interesting, and you couldn't quite see where it was all going to go and how it was going to work out. Like they had the Kenny Omega Bryan Danielson match,
mhm,
and it was everything the fans wanted, and they had him go to a draw. Perfect,
right,
nailed it. Lil Uzi Vert showed up, fucking hilarious.
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and now with AEW, kind of just get what you expect now. Like I
Okay,
think of a wrestler like Malachi Black, who after his match with Brian Keith,
mhm,
I'm reminded that, oh wow, that's right. Not only is he one of the best, but his wrestling style is one of a kind.
yeah,
There's no other wrestler who wrestles like him. And I love striking based wrestlers. There's not many of them. I've brought this up a couple times before. He's
yeah.
one of them, and he executes it flawlessly.
He is definitely one of the more. He's one of my favorites. He's always been one of my favorites, honestly.
And you take Malachi Black and you transport him back to 2019, 2020, even 2021,
Hmm.
and you wouldn't know, like, and you just drop him in and say, like, all right, go wrestle.
Yeah,
And he would be on TV every fucking week, and he would be incredible every fucking week, and his lore would be deepened, and there would be interest and intrigue and mystique and aura, and on top of that, we would get so much wrestling from him. But now, because it's so fucking bloated, you just get what you expect because there's no more room for surprises.
mm.
It's an audio medium. You have to use your words.
No, no, no. I'm thinking about the idea that there's no more room for surprises. I don't know if that goes for everybody when I look at the entire roster. But I want you to continue that before I say anything.
I look at a wrestler like Brody Lee, rest in
Right.
peace, and I think what would happen if he signed now and he wouldn't get that chance that he got then. He got that chance because the it was still Redemption Island, where you can come to AEW and get the chance and get the time and get the moment that you weren't offered in WWE. And
Right.
it's sink or swim. And there were wrestlers who they brought in who fucking sank. Shout out Brian Cage, where they had moments where it's like, we can make you a star if you really are capable. And Brody
Right.
Lee was capable. He was
Yes.
everything that we always expected him to be.
Yes.
Malachi Black is on that same level, should be getting that breathing room, and has not, because there's not that space anymore. They're not willing to take the chance. I
Okay.
think they book conservatively now.
I don't I don't. Okay. Here's the thing that I feel is the issue on why I'm disagreeing. A lot of wrestling is timing. A lot of wrestling is timing because let's look at it. If we go, if we look at any of our favorites, right? Bill Goldberg works. I was a Bill Goldberg fan, but he works because you needed an answer to Austin. You needed that for WCW. They had ran their course with NWO. They fucked up Sting. They had fucked up that story because of the way that Starcade '97 ended. And then they was losing momentum. And you needed a star that kind of gave you already had that badass star with Austin. And you kind of needed your answer to that. And Goldberg while having a similar look, was the opposite of Austin. Like Austin had the personality, he had the catchphrase, he'd come down, he had, he just had that flipping off my boss. Goldberg was, I'm gonna fuck you up in less than 3 minutes.
Almost like a
I'm
Bizarro World version.
exactly. And he was on TNT. So then, all right, you're an actual athlete, you're all this other stuff. You've come off different. And then it was like anytime they try to put a microphone in his face, you just look at it and walk off and storm off. Like, I'm not here to talk. I'm here to fuck people up. And it just worked and gained momentum like that. But it was in a time where I don't think if he came during the time when NWO was heavy, he would have got lost in the sauce.
Do you know, did Goldberg come during their ratings win streak or after?
After.
So it was already over. The 83 weeks were over.
The 83 weeks was over, and this is when, because I was watching, so it was on the tail end when it was like WWE started gaining momentum again.
Mm-hmm.
So they was kind of lost, like, because the NWO had a stronghold on it. The Sting storyline was hard, was like the biggest thing, and then what happened is they fucked up the ending, and then when they fucked up the ending, it was kind of like people was just like, that's when Austin was taking the fuck off.
Right.
So then it was just like, oh yeah, we could just watch this. And that's when they did the whole Mick Foley shit. All that shit happened around the same fucking time. When it was just like, oh yeah, Mick Foley's winning the title. Somebody wants to see that. Yes, everybody wants to see that. Click. Everybody wants to see that. So it was like,
yeah, the whole asses and seats moment. I see your point. But I don't see how it connects to this. I don't think it's an apt comparison.
That's one. But if you look at other moments, when you look at, there's certain people that have to come around at certain times. There's certain times where it's just like, yes, this works at the time. Like, if you look at it, the one of the things I think people love NXT is because people really was dying out of the WWE product. Okay. When NXT started to explode, it was like, I'm burnt out over here. NXT came, your favorite indie stars was coming over there. Honestly, they was on Hulu. I was watching it when it was on fucking Hulu, on fucking 2-week tape delays. 2 weeks. And you was just like, oh shit, they're having Cesaro and Sami Zayn do these fucking crazy ass matches where Cesaro's catching them in air and throwing them and catching them with an uppercut. You're like, yo, I can't watch this on regular WWE. And I think what most people have to understand is, okay, because also I look at AEW as it's like what, solidly 5 years in. That year coming out of the pandemic, it's almost like a fucking fever dream. It is something where we have to understand it was a time and it was an amazing time, but also we now have to switch from that time and let that time kind of go.
I'm not nostalgic for that time. I don't think this isn't a golden age fallacy.
No, I don't think you are. What I think is the thing is, there's a few things, like Malachi is a good example, but I always looked at my the one or two gripes I had with the Malachi thing, even before the bloating of the roster started, was I did not like how him and Cody ended. Like where Cody won. I kind of felt like that should have been the one feud where Cody had no wins in it, because I just felt like it played better for Cody as like, this one person has, like how Swerve Hangman is now, I felt should have been kind of how Cody Black could have been. Because
interesting.
Black squashed him first, and then he beat him at Grand Slam, and then Cody beat him in a hardcore match. And
so it ended up 2-1, right?
It ended up 2-1. Well, 2-2 if you count the 6-man that they had. So it ended up being 2-2, and I was just like, I'm not feeling this. So then he was supposed to, he was supposed to, like, they were supposed to feud with the Lucha Bros immediately after, because that's when Brody King came in. And then that's when Phoenix fucked up his elbow on that title defense where he dislocated his elbow getting choke slammed through the table by Luchasaurus. So it was like, it's one of the things with AEW where I've said, it's like they've been like snake bitten every time something starts to gain momentum.
I can't stand this fucking argument. I'm sorry.
I mean, okay.
Because every wrestling company is snake bitten, because injuries always fucking happen.
But let me finish before you go off. The one thing I have had to say is, Their issue is, okay, you get snake bitten, but how do you rebound? How do you how do you switch? They have had to learn how to do that differently because they, again, early company, early fucking company. Their first full year went into the pandemic, so you don't even really know how to fucking flip from injuries because your ass went straight into the pandemic. And it's like Tony's not a fucking he's not an expert booker. I was
It
looking at
is
like
where his inexperience has.
it's exactly. So I think the thing is a lot of us is we've had to watch his inexperience
Yeah,
up
and
front,
deal with
and
his
it's like
growing pains.
we kind of have to realize like, yeah, we have to deal with the growing pains. Like I don't like I feel like with all this stuff, I feel like I've had to give them grace because it's the fact of like I have to learn through your growing pains. Like if I want to enjoy this product, I actually have to watch you fuck up
Yeah,
how you make your twist because you're doing it in front of me. Like it's not like you had time. Like I always say, like Triple H had NXT to learn that
yeah.
as a booker before he got to Raw and SmackDown now, and he did that through how many takeovers and shit. Like I can't imagine how Tony Khan would have took Tommaso Ciampa's fucking neck having to get fused 2 weeks before a takeover. I can't imagine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't disagree, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, we also got to look at them and be like, we can't judge it on the same scale.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is that you have to because they're both on national TV.
You
Want and I want AEW to succeed,
I don't
and
think they're
I
going
have to judge it on the same scale as WWE.
see, but
There
okay.
are certain concessions I'm willing to make, like WWE's had a fucking 70-year head start, 60-year, 50, well, 70s, 50.
Since the 70s, brother. Since the
It's had a
70s.
50-year head start. So obviously they're not going to have the same brand recognition and the same audience.
Right.
But when it comes to actual quality of the product, I have to have the same standard.
Well, okay. So
Can
that
you explain to me why is it not Malachi Black's timing? If this is your argument that wrestling is all about timing.
I don't think it's not his timing. I don't think for him specifically. I think for him it's a little bit more weird because it's like, okay, everything was building up to the eventual House of Black. And then he himself got injured because then he was talking about his back being so fucked up that he thought he had to retire. So it's like a bunch of shit was happening, so we just don't know. I think when it comes down to the company of AEW, there's two things. And the reason why I say I don't necessarily grade AEW, but also I don't grade any of the wrestling companies on the same, because I can't because that to me doesn't make sense on this level.
But good wrestling is just good wrestling.
Good wrestling's good wrestling. If we're talking like in ring product, that's different. I
That's what
mean,
I'm.
as a company, I grade them all differently. In ring, I still feel like I get the best to what I want in AEW.
I would say
I
in
don't
ring, yeah, but I'm also talking on television.
see on television. This is what I'm saying. On it's different for me. Is like again, I'm a fan. I don't need too much. I don't give a fuck. I really like storylines. I just need them to make a plus, like 1 + 1 = 2 cents for me to be into it. I've been
But
that
with
person.
Malachi Black, we get 1 + 0. We get 1 × 0.
Okay, if we're specifically talking about, I'm just talking about in
Just using
general.
him as an
Okay,
example. Let's use him as
okay.
our skeleton key.
With him, from what I saw was they did the feud. They did him and Cody. From him and Cody, they started to branch out into the House of Black of introducing Brody King, introducing Buddy Matthews. Then from there, they started doing a lot of trios, and then they kind of lost fucking sight. They got lost with something. I don't know what the fuck happened. So it made no sense. But also, it's the thing of when injuries happen, how do you fucking switch your shit around? And he's one of the prime examples of we had to watch them go through the growing pains of like y'all don't know how to fucking switch course that makes sense when something goes wrong. And that was one of the things for AEW in 2022. That was a heavy thing for like if is it I would
But you
say
could have had
late
Malachi
20.
go out there and just cut promos or just do backstage segments and deepen the lore.
He did. Like that's what they did. They did the whole
But it was
burning them down.
infrequent.
Yes, but also it's infrequent. But I would say this is also another thing. We with the growing pains. How do you manage your time and fit things with the time that you're allowed it, with the roster that you keep growing? This is all part of the growing pains. Like you had up until Collision started, you had 4 hours of TV. You're building, you keep bringing more people in. How do you manage to keep all these things, getting them TV time, and you keep a course?
But
And
that's my
that's
exact point. Is
but
that
that's what I'm
now we
saying.
don't get those moments.
See, I don't feel that way because
Because
even
that's what
with
I thought AEW. That's what AEW represented to me. Is that wrestlers who we know are uber talented, who haven't gotten their shot, are now going to at least get their opportunity. And if they sink, they sink. Then we saw. Then at least we got to see. Goes back to romance, and all the romance is in the potential. And if
see,
we only got the potential, we never got reality.
but this is what I would say. I would say over these last 3 months, it's been way better of them getting there.
It's been
Because
better.
I would say everything with Black and Malachi has been continuous since World End. That has been continuous since you had Mark Briscoe versus Brody King. That has been consistent for
Florida
2 to 3 months. Yeah, when you had Mark Briscoe versus Brody King, that's been consistent to now. Like they had the match with him and Mark Briscoe. You had Malachi cutting the promo coming after him. You had him coming after Malachi. Like it's been consistent. I think the thing for them is last year was them trying to figure out this casual fan shit. And how do we appeal to them? And that's some shit that on my heart, I fucking hate. We need to stop that. AEW don't need to appeal to what we think. First of all, if you are on Twitter, on a podcast, if you're on Instagram, whatever, even us, we need to shut the fuck up about casual fans. You know why? We're not fucking casual.
Well, they're also not real.
But here's the thing. The casual wrestling fan is a casual WWE fan.
Right. A casual pro wrestling fan is just a WWE fan.
Perfect example. You know who's a casual fan, technically, that me and you have talked about recently? Your dad.
Yeah, I would say
Because
he's a little. Actually, you know what? Fine, sure, fuck it. Let's say my dad. My dad who watches pro wrestling, and I've taken to pro wrestling shows, and watches mostly because I'm a fan and he loves me and loves what I love by connection, by surrogate.
Right. But he's like, I'm gonna watch this show. Hey, I like the FDR because they resonate to him. Like that.
So my dad liked the FTR. He's like, who are these guys? Who are the Italian dudes? I'm like, it's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. That's FTR. He goes, they're my favorite. They're short, like me. I'm like, all right, bro, for sure. He was pissed about the time limit draw.
He was. But that's the allure of a time limit draw. You're supposed to want more. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're supposed to want a definitive resolution so it makes you want to watch that match. So when the match is on the pay-per-view, you're like, yeah, I need to see that.
I guess the idea is when you talk about a casual fan, are you trying to convert these casual fans into hardcore fans, or are you just trying to keep the casual fans around?
This is what I don't understand about the casual fan argument. Because the people who be like, oh, AEW got to appeal to the casual fans. Like, I'm not here to give this man no more hate. This man's Twitter probably is filled with hate. And also, no offense to O'Shea Jackson. I just muted you because it's just too much sometimes to see the shit just keep popping up on Twitter. But when he was talking about it, I'm like, oh, how do AEW appeal to casual fans? It's like, that's not their fucking appeal. That's not their fucking appeal. Like, their appeal is fans who actually just really are into the shit and they want to pull people in and they make you want to look into some shit. I ain't never seen Echecero a day in my fucking life before that Bryan Danielson match. I ain't know who the fuck he was. I was very confused on why he was firebending on fucking stage. I thought I was watching a fucking episode of Avatar. But when him and Danielson got into the fucking ring, I want to see this motherfucker wrestle every fucking time. The thing is, what two companies do? Two of the companies are never going to do the same shit. What I'm going to get in WWE, I'm not going to get in New Japan. But I'm going to get in New Japan, I'm damn sure not going to get in TNA. What I'm going to get in TNA, I'm not going to get in WWE, CMLL. And it's the fact of you just have to be interested in looking for the shit. But also, I think back to your thing with Malachi, the issue with AEW, I think last year, they kind of got away from what made them them.
Yeah.
Especially from like late 2022 into last year. And then when the C2 started, it was like, yes, this is the fucking AEW I am here for. This is the shit I want. And they've been proceeding to give you that shit on a regular fucking basis of like, all right, we'll give you some match that you had no idea was going to be fucking great and just rock out with it.
Edge versus Minoru Suzuki.
Matt Taven versus fucking Orange Cassidy in the Texas Death Match. I had no right to be that fucking good.
I'm not going to give the O'Shea Jackson thing breath because I'm honestly, for me, I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, yeah. I could not give less of a fuck. Like, if he likes WWE, cool. If he doesn't like AEW, cool. If he loves pro wrestling and only watches WWE, fine. I just don't give a fuck. Like, this fetishization of the casual fan has grown to be so, like, extraordinarily grotesque.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, he likes what he likes, so let him like what he likes. And if he tries something else and he watches AEW and he likes it, cool. If not, that's okay too. You don't have to like fucking everything. I love westerns. I don't love every single western I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And like when I watch movies at home these days, it's pretty much just westerns. Okay? I watched Little Rita a couple weeks ago. That shit fucking blew. All right? But I still had fun because I like westerns. What's that?
What's Little Rita?
It's like a C-list western from like the fucking 70s. Like, don't even sweat it.
I was like, what's that?
Yeah, no. It's like it's the equivalent of watching like Mid-Atlantic, like a random episode of Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
Secondly, the complaint I get when I watch pro wrestling with people who are either casual fans or are just watching it because I'm watching it, and or curious even, where it's like, all right, Jack's watching it, let's see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The number one place where they tune out is during promos and backstage segments.
Mm-hmm.
They love the matches, and then like someone starts talking, they go, oh yeah, this is pretty much all pro wrestling is. It's just talking. People love fucking matches. Like, that's the reality of it. That's why they want to see their stories happen. That's what they want to see more of.
I am so confused when people be like, "Oh, AEW just matches." Bitch, that's all people want.
I don't think it's all people want. Like, the other comparison I also make is like my uncle's mom, who's almost 100, who watches Monday Night Raw every week because, quote, I like the stories. There's that too. There's that soap opera aspect of it that we all know, but she still is watching for like the payoff of the matches. Like, it's in the background because I talked to her about it because I was genuinely curious.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, I kind of do whatever during the talking parts, but then when it's the matches, that's when I want to see the payoff.
Yeah. I mean, that is relatively kind of how I watch Raw. Like, Raw and SmackDown, I don't fully watch. Like, I just let it play and I do whatever I'm doing. Like, I'll be painting, drawing, sketching. I'll do my I live my life with it just playing in the background. But AEW, I'm going to sit down and watch because more likely they have the stuff I want to see. They have the action I want to see. They have the people I want to see. But the thing about it is, when I say we have to just stop worrying about, oh, this company doesn't appeal to me, so they can't appeal to the casual fan. You ain't a casual fucking fan of the company. You are a fan of another product.
Yeah.
Who wants another product to give you the product like how you get it from that other company. And that doesn't fucking work. And I get fucking tired of it. I feel like T-Pain on his Ustream. Talk about something else. Do something else.
I want stories, but I want them in my matches. I don't want these video game matches, which AEW is guilty of, but every company's guilty of it. But like, just as an example, because it's on my mind because I just watched it, like Sammy Guevara versus Powerhouse Hobbs from Collision.
I'm about to watch it when we get on.
I would say the worst hardcore match I've ever seen. Like, guilty of everything that's ever been levied against hardcore matches and AEW matches, where it was just this video game match where they're just doing spots that don't have a lot of lead up or make sense. and are just kind of keep falling flat on their face. I won't spoil anything that happens in the match, but I think you'll see what I'm talking about. And that I get when people watch AEW and be like, there's no stories. Because in that match, there was no story. There was nothing leading into it, and the match told no stories. It was just,
what do you mean there was
it was like they
nothing
were
leading
being
into it?
controlled by player one and player two.
What the fuck you mean there was nothing into it?
Yeah, you got the whole family thing, and they're
I'm
like,
what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
okay. There's a loose idea of like, okay, these two factions are beefing, so now that they're gonna wrestle, but there was nothing that like led to this. We need to have a no DQ match between these two guys.
It wasn't even that. It's a whole bunch of other shit. It's like, all right, Sammy was in the family, but then Sammy got mad with the family, and then also Powerhouse Hobbs cost them the fucking tag team titles because he moved Ricky Starks out the way when he was fucking about to do a swanton up the side of the stage, and fucking Sammy.
Yeah, but because things happen between two people doesn't mean that there's a story, specifically one that needs to be paid off with a no DQ. And listen, if they had had a match that had an interesting thread line and an interesting narrative, I wouldn't be singing this tune.
But hold on, time. And then last week, after the Jeff Hardy match, Powerhouse Hobbs put him through a table and said, "Do something about it, bitch." And then they had a fucking match. What do you mean there ain't two? Like, I ain't even seen it. I've only seen one fucking clip, and it makes me want to watch the whole fucking match. So maybe I might not agree with you. But there's been shit that's been putting A to B. Again, I'm a simple 1 + 1 = 2 motherfucker. I'm a very simple motherfucker. It don't take me long to get me to buy into some shit.
I guess my frustration is that it anything that came before it was times by 0 because nothing really happened in the match that.
Is it time by 0, or is it because we just don't give a fuck about Sammy? Let's be honest. Let's just address the elephant in the room.
Let's go. If you want to talk about 1 + 1, we don't give a fuck about Sammy because he has these video game matches that don't make you feel anything.
So then, is it really the match, or is it Sammy?
Well, Sammy's in the match,
but
so that it's like so it's both.
So Hobbs ain't do nothing for you. Hobbs ain't interest you in nothing.
Listen, positive times a negative is still a negative. I think Powerhouse Hobbs has a lot more potential than Sammy Guevara, and Powerhouse Hobbs can do great things. But that ain't it.
I ain't see the match. I'm not going to just say nothing yet. I will see how I feel after the match. You may get a text from me saying, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
We'll talk about it next week. But like, let's
talk about it next week.
Let's roll it into what wrestler would you give a second chance for their career on for discussion today?
I find this one very interesting. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. Especially with what we have in 5 days, Sting's last match, which is like his second chance. Which, as a Stinger fan, it's been glorious for me. Honestly, I've loved it. I think about that. Damn, a second one just came in my head, but then that's changing the whole world.
Okay, no, those does. Do both.
Well, the other one is just they died of natural causes outside the ring.
I mean, but I can still.
The first one is Bret Hart. Like I always wondered if he didn't get hurt, like how would his career end? Would he have gone back to WWE when WCW bought WWE? Like, would he have gone on one final run? You know what I mean? Like I always wondered, like if he got to finish his career how he wanted to finish his career, how would it end? Just because I just feel like that WC, especially watching the WCW run, you could just see how miserable he was. You could just see how much he just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the match where he got hurt, his last match. And I remember when Goldberg kicked him, and I was just like, "Oh, that looked very much like it connected." And I was just like, ugh. But the second one, man, this is one that always keep me up as a wrestling fan. And if Eddie Guerrero just never passed away, that one, because I remember they said the rumor match was supposed to be him and Shawn at that Mania, and I would have given anything to see him and Shawn Michaels. especially second run Shawn Michaels. Like Shawn Michaels' second run to me, blasphemous or not, is better than his first run. Like when he came back, the fucking unsanctioned match with Triple H and everything. Man, that to see him and Eddie would have been fucking fantastic. So just then, like I would love to see Eddie get like this run in like Mexico, maybe at his 50s or something, or be old, or just
Eddie would have had an amazing like twilight of his career.
Can you imagine just randomly you would have gotten in like 2016 Eddie versus Kenny Omega in the fucking like on an independent show? Like that would have been crazy. Oh man, that's one. Eddie. I wish, because I was a major Eddie fan. Eddie's one of my goats. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I just started like rattling them off
Mm-hmm.
in my head while you talk. Like all of a sudden, I got a rush of ones that I want to do. And it's a combination of like either injuries or just timing,
Yeah.
or tragic events. But I'll throw a couple of them at you. I'll see if we can get through them all. But if not, it's okay. The world will stay on its axis. Number one, Steve Blackman. Steve Blackman, the Lethal Weapon, would have been so fucking cool in modern day, at his time, whenever.
Steve Blackman in Bloodsport?
Oh my God. Steve Blackman in Bloodsport would have ended days. John Moxley versus Blackman in Bloodsport. Blackman versus Barnett in Bloodsport.
That would have been fire.
Steve Blackman versus Malachi Black in Bloodsport. If we really want to like get into some fantasy booking,
that is some fantasy booking shit right there.
Yeah, he was so cool. He had such a natural charisma, like about him, where he could just stand, and you found something alluring, and he had the legitimate background, and the dude could work. Like from what we saw from him, we were just seeing a peek at his potential because he was still learning what we saw.
Yeah.
Could have been great. Could have been an all-timer. I'm going to throw Takeshi Morishima out there. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing him. Him versus Danielson is one of my favorite matches ever. Career got cut short.
Yeah.
If he too he never got to New Japan, but he could be in New Japan today kicking ass.
Yeah.
Creating great matches. Everywhere he went, he had great matches. Am I losing you here? Am I starting to bore you with my...
No, not you. I thought about my life.
I think I'm going to throw
before I started this podcast. God damn it!
I think I'm going to throw a surprise one at you.
Okay, let me hear.
Michelle McCool.
The fuck?
Michelle McCool. If we give her a second chance in modern day WWE or even modern day pro wrestling, where women have opportunities to do more things, Michelle McCool would have been a 20-minute wrestler putting on bangers. She had the look. She was tall. She was athletic. She loved the business.
Ooh. You sparked one right here.
I think she would have been a better version of Charlotte Flair.
Oh, whoa. Slow down. Relax. Relax. You're pushing it there. I was with you up until that last one. Because I'm like, it's very fun. I'm gonna sound so horrible saying this. Like I look at Charlotte Flair as like the Pokemon evolution version of Michelle McCool, like more athletic, a little bit more successful.
But is that because of Charlotte Flair, or is that because of the time? Because you put Michelle McCool, plug her into NXT in the Performance Center. Ooh, fucking doggy.
But I don't know if Michelle McCool had the athleticism that Charlotte does.
Of course she did.
Not like the way
Did you see her pull off a Styles Clash?
Yes, I've
seen
her. You
know how hard of a move that is?
Well, no, I've never been to wrestling school yet.
Okay. Styles Clash, and she was doing them from all positions, is one of the hardest moves to keep your opponent safe on. And to just do full stop. It exercises a really certain type of muscle and athleticism, and she hit that shit flawlessly. And she hit that shit with almost no roadmap before her. Like, it's not like she had AJ Styles, like, watched him do it and then watched the videos for training. She was doing that shit before AJ.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I need to check the timeline because AJ been doing that shit since
Check
2002.
that shit. I'm actually right on this.
AJ's been doing that shit since 2002. Goddamn
it. No, Michelle was doing it before him. I don't think he was doing it since 2002.
Yes, he was.
Oh, right, in TNA. I still think Michelle was before.
I don't know. All right, let me check with Michelle. But anyway, that's not the part where I was saying it's fucked up. This is the part I was gonna say. If you put Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair, and Michelle McCool, they kind of just like the Pokemon evolutions of each other. They kind of just go. Because then I look at Tiffany Stratton, I'm like, oh, she's like the next evolution of Charlotte. Just like,
who just popped into your mind?
If I could put Gail Kim into like the women's, like into like that women's timing of like Becky, Sasha, like if I could just put her right there.
But does she need a second chance? Because I feel like you're putting down TNA.
No,
right
what I mean is like,
which
when she
of course everybody does. It's a great pastime.
I would still keep her TNA run, but her first time being in WWE would have been during that time, not her first time being during the Divas era. Her first time would have been like her first match in WWE would just be her and Sasha, or her and like Becky and Charlotte, like that time. But I love Gail Kim and TNA. At one point, Gail Kim and TNA was the only reason why I was fucking watching TNA. So her and Awesome Kong had bangers. But
we can throw AJ Lee out there too, then, because AJ Lee didn't even get that TNA run. She didn't even have that run of glory.
AJ Lee left right as it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's the craziest part. It's fucking no. AJ was using the Style Clash before her. She came into WWE development in 2004. AJ was doing TNA and everything already.
I don't know about that. When did he first do the Styles Clash?
AJ Styles.
I don't think he came in with that move.
I think it was one of his first moves. I know it was either that or it was like the spiral tap, but
because he was doing much more athletic shit back then. He was doing much more high flying stuff.
Styles Clash was always still his finisher.
I don't know. I'm gonna finish with one. Let's finish this off. Pick up that argument later. I'm gonna finish one with pretty relevant right now. I'm gonna go RVD because you get RVD. Really, I want a second chance on just his WWE title reign.
Oh,
I think that moment in time where RVD could have transcended an absolute superstardom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he just got in trouble. And after that, he never got the trust of management and got lost in the shuffle of it all. But he was poised for that top tier, that elite tier. And he had the charisma, he had the cult fan base. That would have been such a strong base for him that would have supported him through anything. And he had the athleticism and he put on great matches.
Yeah.
I think if he got a second shot, even in his time, he would have been and we could just alter the timeline a little, just give it a little tweak. We would be talking about RVD in the stratosphere of all-time wrestlers.
I think the funny thing is it depends on which wrestling fan you are. It will depend on, how you feel in regards to RVD, because there are people like myself who's already like, well, yeah, RVD is that. But as you said, it depended.
He could have been universal.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things where he could have just been super universally like one of those people.
I'm talking he could have been on, John Cena's on his own level, but I'm saying he could be on the level of a Randy Orton.
Yeah, because here's the thing, and I agree with you on this. To people who watch ECW, he's already that. Like,
but ECW was 30 years ago.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, to certain wrestling fans, he is that. But then when you look into the WWE field, like, no, he could have been. It is that thing of like he could have been, and he didn't. It's very weird.
People speak of Jeff Hardy before they speak of RVD. And I think RVD could have filled that slot or at least been next to Jeff Hardy during that time.
Well, if you also think about it, Jeff Hardy's, I mean, his that fucking weed bust, that doesn't happen, right? Who
Right.
knows how long we still get RVD on TV?
I think we get him for a long time.
Right, and that's the reason why people talk about Jeff Hardy before they talk about RVD, because
That's
Jeff Hardy,
that's exactly
yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah, that's
It's
what
like
I'm
you
saying.
tweak that, and Jeff Hardy will get like a random highlight clip from a non-pro wrestling account.
Yeah,
like all the time on Twitter.
all the time.
Or like if I'm talking pro wrestling with people like who, well, one of the first wrestlers is like, oh, I remember watching Jeff Hardy. ... You could have just slide RVD into that Jeff Hardy CM Punk feud.
Yeah,
and we're
that
living.
Oh my god, that would have been fucking fun.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So let us know your picks for. Oh wait, you got one before I close this out?
No, I was just about to say there are clips of AJ Styles using Styles Clash in WCW. So
well, then fuck me sideways. I still stick by my Michelle McCool pick.
Hey, no problem with the pick. It's very interesting. Damn, there was one that just came to my head.
How about this? There wasn't much of a roadmap.
There wasn't. I'll give you that. It wasn't, because he was the only person doing it. If you're not paying attention, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did have one. Fuck. This is a weird one. It's off. It's definitely offbeat.
Love it.
I wonder what would have happened with Tyson Kidd if he never fucked up his neck.
Ooh, interesting one.
I like Tyson Kidd in ring a lot. He was very smooth, very clean. I loved him and Cesaro as a tag team. Yeah. I just do wonder if his neck never got fucked up, but especially as they moved more into in-ring heavier based shit. What it would have been, and also would he have stayed? Would he have gone into the Indies afterwards, where it was like a little bit like I do wonder what would have happened with Tyson Kidd, because I think I don't even think he's like 42 yet or something like that. Like he's still pretty young. So I'm like,
one of the funniest haircuts in pro wrestling history.
Hated that fucking haircut. I hated that.
An old timer.
When he grew out his full head of hair, I was like, why the fuck did you have that fucking shit in the first place?
The beanstalk sprout.
Anyways, let us know if you had any.
Let us know who you would give a second shot on.
Yeah.
We love you. This is Jack Simon. Catch me on jacksimonmakes.com. Look me up on Jack Dog Simon, Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, and you can find me online, Life of Deem. You can find me anywhere on that. You can follow us for the podcast, Wrestling with Wromance on IG, Wromance Podcast on Twitter. We'll holler at you guys later.
Deuces.
Deuces.